welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. So in this video, we're going to finally get to the second season of Road to Avonlea, or Avonlea, depending on where you're at. So this is the TV series loosely based on some of the short stories written by LM Montgomery, the books, and yes, I've already reviewed them. I don't, no idea if they're out yet. I have to look at my list. But it's the Chronicles of Avonlea and Further Chronicles of Avonlea. So those are the two that these are based off of. So I'm, unfortunately, due to scheduling, and I have a 4.5-year-old, and I can only watch these on my television, I'm just kind of cherry picking certain episodes. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to try to watch the first and last, as well as a couple in here. So this is what we're talking about. This is not the entire DVD case. This is just the covering. As you can see, it's empty. But we're going to be looking at this episode, this season. So in the first episode is Sarah's homecoming. So in the last season, Sarah's father's name was cleared and she goes home. Then he proceeds to go to the warehouse and dies. So it's like, yeah, because obviously they have to get her back somehow, and we can't have issues like that. So she comes back. And she kind of feels bad because she loved her father, but she'd fallen in love with living in Avonlea with her mother's family. So that's really kind of the basis of this story. It's her getting readjusted to being back in Avonlea. And of course now she's inherited all her dad's stuff. So that's the basis of this episode. So the next one I went into was, of course, it's Secrets and True Love. Okay, this is an interesting episode. The reason I watched this is this brings back both Marilla Cuthbert and Rachel Lynde. And for some reason, Sullivan decides to bring in Dora and Davy. So, if you were watching my videos or are familiar with the book series, Dora and Davy are, I'm trying to think how they're related to Marilla. I think they're her cousin's children. And she dies. Now, in the show, she goes to the funeral with Rachel, who apparently has a bad tooth, and Rachel's already living with her. So, and originally the kids are going to stay with this other woman, and then this woman comes and wants to get rid of Davy and not Dora. And Marilla decides to take in both children. And again, Rachel Lynde has some massively sore tooth. In the meantime, and I think this is slightly before this, Sarah and Olivia come over because apparently, I don't know whether she was doing this to be malicious or just irritating, but Marilla had told them that Rachel had used to sing in some fancy choir. And so they came over to talk to Rachel. And this is where I cringe on this episode because why they had to put this in. So Rachel and Olivia show up. Marilla tells Rachel, she's like, I'm not even wearing my corset. Well, it's like, you better go put it on, which is very, very weird because corsets were normal. It was part of the everyday life. She would have been wearing one in the first place. It's like forgetting to put on your underwear or forgetting to put on your bra. And they are sitting outside with another person. So yeah, a lot of times we do this. Rachel's an older woman. I think she's slightly well endowed. Yeah, she just wouldn't. You're not going to forget to put on your bra, particularly when you're sitting out in public where people could be riding by. And then they have a corset tightening scene on an old lady. Oh dear God, they don't do this. Why? This is a pet peeve of mine. It is a massive, massive pet peeve of mine. Corsets were not tight. They were not uncomfortable. They were the modern version of a bra. They did not tighten them to make them look skinnier. I don't think little old ladies would do it either, even if they were being vain. Because again, it would just be weird to have Marilla tightening Rachel's corset. And again, they would have done this themselves. These are farm women. They're used to doing this. She would have not been without her corsets. Again, it's like putting on your bra in the morning before you get dressed. That is pretty much what this was. It was their bust support. She would not have been going out without her bra. She's a proper Sunday school teacher. No, it just wouldn't happen. Again, she would not be having Marilla tighten it just to be filmed or have a picture taken. Even if her tooth was sore. And again, she probably would have had it yanked out. So yes, this was in there. And yes, it was very, very weird. The other part of this is, and this is the true love thing, was apparently years ago they go looking, Marilla gives them permission to go look in a trunk of Rachel's. I don't remember why. And they find a picture with a lock of hair. Apparently she was in love with this traveling minister, and Sarah being Sarah, her character is very much the matchmaker, which of course is something that Anne Shirley was in the books. She was very much a matchmaker, far more successful than Sarah, not to mention I believe she was much older than Sarah when she was doing this. But they go and search for this choir director who turns out to be having been breaking hearts all over time. Now back to the Davy and Dora thing. Now, if you are familiar with the books, Anne was there at the time. Rachel was not living with them when Davy and Dora came in. And Marilla took them right away. They were never taken by anybody else. There was never thought of the twins being separated. They were in contact with their uncle, who ended up dying, if I remember correctly. So this whole thing with, again, Anne is not here. Rachel had nothing to do with this. No, she did not particularly like Davy. Davy was a pain in the butt when he was this age. He was causing problems. He was being rambunctious. He was teasing his sister. He once locked her in the shed. He eventually grows up and takes over Green Gables, and gets married, as does Dora. So it's very, very strange that they bring them in at this point when Anne is supposedly already gone and married, which again is not the way that happened in the books. I don't know why on earth he brought her in. Mind you, again, the questionable corset scene brings this in. And it just turns out that Davy and Dora are going to live with them, as far as I know. So that's just kind of Davy and Dora have been brought in. So that's this episode, which, made me massively cringe. Yes, I will probably, maybe next year or something, do something on historical fashion. It is a passion of mine. I currently would absolutely love a corset. It's great back support, and I have lower back pain because kid. Moving on. I did the next episode that I did, and I did this one because I haven't done an episode with him yet, and I don't know where they bring not Jasper, Gus Pike in. So this is episode 8. This is the Sea Ghost. So Gus Pike, I remember really, really clearly. He's a character that is brought in, I'm pretty sure obviously sometime this season. He plays the violin. His mother died when he was young. He kind of does odd jobs around. And he has a relationship with Felicity King. And the reason I remember him so clearly is he is very much the subject of season 7. He is very much in season 7. He's a seafaring kid. Hattie also takes a shine to him, and they become close over time. She kind of looks after him. And though Felicity is not really that entirely involved with him at this point, he is, I don't know if he's older than her. I think he's older than her a little bit. he is very much becomes a big brother figure to Sarah. And in this episode, the lighthouse keeper, who's kind of aloft, reveals to him that he had been in love with Gus's mother and that he had promised to look out for him, that he had been keeping an eye out for him as Gus kind of does these odd jobs around town, trying to, I don't know where the heck, he sleeps where he can, and yet he still shows up to school. I don't know if Hattie forced him. It's very possible. She has a lot of influence over Gus, particularly I think as time goes on, because he very much respects her. So, but Gus's father shows up. Apparently there was some sort of smuggling thing going on, and Gus's father supposedly, they have a fight with the sea captain, and supposedly his father seemingly falls off a cliff. At the end, you do not see anything besides the father falling. And there's an angry mob because they think they're smuggling alcohol. I'm guessing this is happening in the 1920s because this would mean Prohibition was going on in the United States. I don't know. Obviously, there wasn't, as far as I know, Prohibition going on in Canada, but they probably didn't like rum runners anyway because it's illegal. They're doing illegal alcohol and they're escaping taxes. So that would have been the big thing. And his father, who supposedly had been dead, shows up and then supposedly actually dies. I don't know if he shows up again. He was an alcoholic. So he was not really part of Gus's life. And he's taken on by the former lover of his mother. Sorry, not her mother. And that's pretty much it. I think, I remember watching the last episode, which is, let me see if I can go down this, Misfits and Miracles, but it didn't really stand out. Oh no, this has to do with the hockey team. So you get Miss Stacy, who is from the Anne of Green Gables series, was the teacher, is now like the superintendent of schools, which I'm not sure was a thing. It's been a little while since I read through the books. I know Avonlea has some sort of, sorry, no, it's not late. It's just tired and yawning. And I need to make dinner for my husband, and my daughter's with my in-laws, which is the reason it's quiet. But they do have some sort of committee. So she's coming, and Hattie is very much apparently against sports, and they're trying to set up a hockey team, and it is very much, and this is very typical 90s. This shows it's 90s, where you have the very arrogant, elitist, only thinks men can do hockey antagonist, whose name I cannot remember, and then you have what on earth? Felix, and I believe his name is Don King, which is Sarah's father, and Felix and Felicity's mother, and Janet, which is actually no, it's Alec. It's Alec King. But his wife Janet is very, very pregnant at the time. But he sets up a hockey team of the Misfits. And then they have to beg, when he hurts his back, they have to beg Miss Stacy to come coach the team. And then the old lady in the woods is also helping them, and she actually teaches Sarah. Because the deal is, this guy has been cutting down trees close to Avonlea, the town, and right on the outskirts. And of course, our little old lady from, if you remember last season, or my reviews, I did review this one. She's the one who gave Felix the supposed amulet to help him have more confidence. The same one. And they're cutting down trees near her place. And so she's not happy. So she teaches Sarah how to play hockey. They have to convince Miss Stacy, who insists that Hattie accept that the school needs sports. And eventually she does. And they obviously win, though Alec is home with Janet, and Sarah has to help birth the baby. And Felicity keeps fainting, who supposedly, again, this is Felicity's character, she knows, she's the know-it-all. She knows everything about babies. She helped raise her other living siblings. And the idea of her mother going into labor makes her faint multiple times. And they have a boy. So that's really what this is. Misfits and Miracles. It's still a fun, again, this is still very much episodic. So they're not doing continuing. Yes, you're building on characters, but each episode has a definitive closing. So it is very, very interesting. Again, you are going to build on the characters. I've always enjoyed Gus Pike, but again, just because of the way memory works, he's in season 7 a lot, and this is where him and Felicity's relationship. So I wanted to do something on him. I can't remember when they bring it in. And of course, then you're watching something on corsets and Davy and Dora, and the corset things just bugs me. It just does. It's why do you have to keep it? It's very common in historical dramas of putting in the tightening of the corsets. At least Rachel Lynn is wearing a chemise, which is something that goes underneath the corset. But no, just no. She would not be tightening a corset. I don't care how vain she is. Yes, eventually in that episode she does get her tooth pulled and she becomes happier. And the weird minister is just bizarre and apparently married a bunch of other women. I don't think you ever actually see him. And she throws away the thing of hair and relates like she loved her husband. But again, when Davy and Dora originally came in, as far as I know, Rachel's husband may have still been alive, but I'm not entirely sure. But she was not living with Morella at this time when Davy and Dora showed up. This is Davy and Dora show up in Anne of Avonlea, which is book 2. And Anne is still there. This is when she's teaching at Avonlea school. And she leaves at the end of the book. And that is when Rachel moves in. So that is when Davy and Dora come in. And by this time, I think Davy is calmed down a bit. And he has a bit more of a relationship with Rachel Lynn at this point. So it's strange to see them come in now without Anne. Obviously, Megan Fellows is not here. I'm pretty sure the actress who plays Morella dies in the next season. And Rachel has to take in Davy and Dora. Again, this is not, obviously, this has to do with the actress actually dying, and not really built into this. It's nothing to do with trying to stay true to the books, because obviously he's not, and these aren't part of the books anyway. They're part of the short story collections. So, and yes, you can check out those. I reviewed those. Most of them do not involve most of these people, except for occasionally Rachel Lynn and Morella. That's occasionally brought in. But again, that is really the end. I'm sorry. Yawning. This is what happens when you have a 4.5-year-old, even though, who doesn't sleep well. And life and cats. So, but really great. I am enjoying watching these. I hope to watch them with my daughter one day. Very much. You don't necessarily need them you don't need to enjoy the Road to Avonlea if you can enjoy the Road to Avonlea without watching the Anne of Green Gables, even the films or the books, or reading the book series. They are entirely separate. This is how I first was introduced to this world. So this is how I know. I watched these as a kid. That's why I'm reviewing them. I did not actually read the Anne of Green Gables series until I was an adult. And yes, I saw the films, but again, I didn't entirely connect them when I was young. And the last film, due to legal reasons, didn't come out until the 2000s. Why the first 2 Sullivan films with Anne came out in like the late 80s, early 90s. So it's very interesting. But again, great series. Not particularly fond of the whole corset scene. They just seem to be in all these historical things, and it's extremely irritating and very unrealistic in that sense. Here, see my necklace here. But like and subscribe, leave a positive comment if you have them. I will in fact be finished the series hopefully soon, because I'm running behind, and then I will be moving on to the Boxcar Children, which I have here, and I will be getting there. This is book 3, I think. So And then we'll be going on to Wings of Fire. And then, of course, I have a bunch of other stuff. So be sure to check out the channel. Thank you.